All right, what is going on, Ravens flock? And we are back here again, Ravens Way Podcast, episode number 17. Chugging along here, making it through. And the vibes are up. The vibes really are up as we approach towards the season. And I'm feeling good. Voss, how are we feeling right now? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's been a roller coaster. The worst case or one of the worst case scenarios possible occurred. Obviously, with Marlon Humphrey getting hurt, it's not a season ender. It doesn't seem like. Thank God, knock on wood. But we did that list a couple weeks ago, the most irreplaceable, and he was number two, clearly number two. But they Eric DeCosta went out this afternoon and signed Ronald Darby, an experienced, pedigreed cornerback, coming off an injury. I think all in all, it may turn out to be a blessing in disguise that Marlowe did get hurt, because maybe if everybody is healthy at the right time, your ceiling's a little bit higher than it would have been. But anyway, give us your breakdown on Darby, because I know that's a guy you're really excited about. They visited with a couple others, but that's the guy you targeted, and I agree with you.
Yeah, I think with Marlon going down, as you said, it is a blessing in disguise in some sorts. And it's also a blessing in disguise because the Ravens are going to run more zone while Marlon is out. They're going to be a little more uh, pacifist in terms of how they set up their coverage. And Ronald Darby is a very high IQ zone corner. He can play the ball, and he can really, use that IQ he has, and the reason why he got drafted because he's also 6'2", so he's not short. He's not a short guy.
No,
Um,
he's 5'11".
5'11". Okay, I must have been thinking of some other corner that was a free
Kerry
agent that was short.
Williams. Kerry Williams
Oh
was
yeah,
6'2".
yeah. It
You're
might yeah, it might have been
confident.
him because I was
But
looking
he
up
he
there.
play he plays bigger than his size. I'm sorry to cut you off, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, high IQ zone corner, and that kind of plays in the Ravens' hand a little bit with Marlon being out and them probably running a little more zone, with Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton back there. So, you know, the best guy on the market, in my opinion, and someone that I've been calling for a while. So I'm ecstatic about it, and I think similar to Kerry Williams, he can have that kind of impact, that third or fourth corner. Well, Williams kind of was the second out of nature because of the injuries, but down the season, talk about week 8 and beyond, that third or fourth corner that's a starting caliber guy. I think that's a reasonable outcome for him.
Yeah, I do too. It depends on his health. He tore his left ACL for the second time. He's had quite a few left leg injuries throughout his career, but this was a guy that had track speed coming into Florida State. So, if there's a guy that maybe can afford to lose a half a step after a couple of the injuries, it might be him. I agree with you. He's more crafty. I've watched a lot more college tape of him than what he became in the league, 7 years in. But I think it's a good signing. They did bring in William Jackson for a visit. Doesn't look like that is going to necessarily amount to much. And we were talking about it a little bit, offline, and you were pounding the table for Darby over Jackson, and you convinced me, and DaCosta was thinking the same as you. So congrats on that one. The other guy is Anthony Brown. Unless you had anything more on Darby,
No.
because apparently there's still interest in Anthony Brown, and considering all the injuries that they have, I mean, JAD returned today on Thursday, but Marlette is still out, and quite a few, Yasin is still out. They could still bring in Brown. I don't know a whole lot about him. I do just recall he's kind of a big frame, cover 3 kind of guy.
Yeah, I really don't have much to really add on him. All I know is that he played for the Cowboys. That's it. I know he also is another injury guy. I think he tore his Achilles sometime last year. Yeah, ACL, Achilles. It was Achilles. Achilles last year. So, I'd be fine with it if they want to add both. I think that's really make this secondary and cornerback group as deep as possible and kind of squeeze the juice out of these injury laden veterans that are left on the market. Just kind of squeeze it out and see what we can get.
I mean, there's nothing left to be done. They waited until pretty much the last moment, so you're picking through injury, doctors' medical reports to see which corner you think is going to be able to give you. But You got to give him credit for being proactive at least, instead of saying we're gonna roll with the guys we had at least. Um, to me, I mean, just touching on the Humphrey injury, I mean, we don't know how long it's going to be. Reportedly a month or maybe a little bit longer than that. The first quarter of the season, according to Josina. Um, it's tough. Your best defensive player in my mind, and also your position you could least afford, but also the nature of the injury, that it is a foot injury on a corner. It's not ideal. He'd rather he had to get his shoulder cleaned out or something. But to me, I think it just puts that emphasis on needing to get one more edge defender, uh, a little bit more prior, a little more emphasis on that, because now your pass defense is not expected to have its top dog. So how do you compensate for that with that symbiotic relationship between pass rush and coverage? So to me, I think they still need one more move to make, whether that's Clowney or Van Noy or some other rabbit DaCosta has in his hat, but somebody established. Not the guy that's not an Arthur Mollett version of a outside linebacker.
Right,
And then
right.
to me, you just try to peak in January and you say we're not gonna be a finished product. We hope to get everybody healthy and on the field and ready to go in that postseason. That time when we've had so much trouble lately.
Definitely, yeah, definitely agree with that. I think between now and the week 8 deadline, they probably need one more edge rusher and probably one more corner. That's just my opinion. I think one more defensive back in general would do them well. Someone that's a solid starter. I guess now you would have technically 5 established defensive backs with Darby, Humphrey, Yasin, Hamilton, and Williams. Um, so now I guess the question is DB6, which is probably Stone. You got 7 Stevens, and then 8 Armour Davis. So it depends. I mean, I don't want to put karma or bad will out there, but you'd expect that they'd probably lose one defensive back between now and week 8. It's just the nature of football. Injuries happen. So that would be
Yeah.
my Ravens path to the Super Bowl. How do we get there, and how do we stack the roster up to withstand some of those football injuries? And that's one more edge rusher and one more defensive back. I think that'll put us in a really good place, and we can go into January.
Yeah, I put out the roster projection on Monday for Baltimore beatdown, and I kind of believe strength in numbers at defensive back at this point. Wherever you can save an extra roster spot, only 5 D linemen, just even the stability of a Kevon Seymour and a Daryl Worley, I think would be worthwhile. Not saying that they're on the roster day one, but they're on the roster week one, as in Pepe goes on IR with maybe even Marlowe goes on IR or somebody else. But I think I'd like to just have that veteran. At least I feel like if JD and whoever else aren't quite getting toasted, at least you can stick a Seymour in there, and you're going to get C- or C level play.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
Let's transition it to the joint practices then. What did you see out of the? I was going to I want to pick your brain on this because I think you got it was good. It was good to get your eyes out there in person.
Yeah, no, it was fun. Before we got to meet a lot of good people out there. Talked to Jeff Z a little bit. Some of the players were out there too. Torrey Smith, got to shake his hand. It was great. Great seeing my my goat out there, my Torrey Smith. I love him. So it was a good time. But in regards to football and what happened out there, a few things to take away is once again, this is one practice, so one practice does not mean that this is going to be a large grand statement on what happens during the year. Things change, football changes, football's fluid. But I'll start off with Isaiah Likely being out. In his stead, you saw a decent amount of reps for Kolar within the ones. He was in the ones. Now, how many reps he went on for routes? not a lot, but I do see him having a substantial role in the void of Oliver and Boyle and the blocking. I think he's really going to carve out himself a nice role there, get some reps there, and get work that I shouted at him. I said the best thing you did this offseason was put on 15 pounds and work that hardball royalty system with the blocking snaps, something along the lines of that. But it's hard to um, but it was good. Good seeing him out there put in the work. But outside
Let
of
me
my good.
No, yeah. Uh, Um, I know it's hard to keep eye on all three, especially in joint practices, because they run on both fields at that same time. What Lamar's deep ball accuracy seems to be one of the kind of storylines to take away. He was a little bit inconsistent, left some balls short, sailed a couple balls. Um, how much of that did you see?
I mean, there was a fair amount. There was there was that play down the sideline where I think Flowers beat Forbes and the ball was just through the tip of Flowers' hands. It looks like Flowers slowed up a little bit on that. Um, and the Aguilar had a drop, and there was a lot of plays, and even Treadwell had a drop, and it was another one of those long deep balls. So a little bit of drops, a little bit of mistiming. One thing that I think this whole deep ball accuracy thing is really blown out of proportion is there is maybe less than three deep, like true deep balls attempted per game. We're talking about 35 air yards. It's probably less than three. It's probably less than five. It's not a reliable way to move the football. And luckily, Lamar Jackson is good at over the middle and intermediate throws. In my level of concern, am I super concerned? Not really. And we have to also think these are all like the new, three of the top four targets are all new football players to the Ravens scheme. Team, Beckham, Flowers, and Aguilar. They're all new players. So there's chemistry is going to have to be built, and that's what they're doing. That's what the camp's for. And this is where you want to see him take those shots down the sideline and maybe miss, and maybe overthrow and underthrow. And football. There's just a lot of moving parts in football, and I'm not ready to bail on Lamar Jackson can't throw deep because he couldn't do it in the fourth week of training camp. I'm just not ready to do that. Now it
Yeah,
comes
no
to
doubt.
week 3 or
He's
week 4 like that, then okay.
I think the sweet spot for Lamar has always been that 15 to 20-yard range. He's not going to be a quarterback that excels necessarily in that deep third of the field, but I think he makes up for it with what he does with his legs and how he stresses defenses. On the bright side of the passing offense, it seemed by most reports that Beckham was really showing that wide receiver one skill set with making some contested catches and showing off some body control. And also, Zay Flowers just murdering people in one-on-ones.
Yeah, Zay Flowers. It's really hard to keep your eyes off him because he's so like he's like a knife. He's cutting everywhere. It's just he cuts and it's like he puts the other defender way out of the stratosphere. Um, and it was fun watching. I mean, he really does have that Z skill set that they were missing since Hollywood was traded, and I think he has a lot more to offer than Hollywood in terms of what he can do over the middle of the field, what he can do in the screen game as well. The Ravens ran a little bit of screens to him, and you got I'm just you're looking back on it, and we talk about corner versus wide receiver and the term get good players. I mean, wide receiver was technically still a need, and if I don't think I'd want to do that pick over again. I really like Zay Flowers, and I think we landed our best wide receiver in the last decade. I'm not ready to say ever because Torrey Smith, once again, he's my established guy. He had some good runs here, but Flowers is exciting. And then real quick, let me touch on Beckham.
Yeah.
I said it on one of the podcasts we did a couple of weeks ago. Recently, I really think we landed a superstar in Beckham, and he's out there. You can tell by just the way he carries himself. The way he can still move. They're still throwing slants to him, so they're not afraid to get him over the middle of the field. It's not like he's, they're throwing specific routes because he's ginger, because he's still hurting or whatever. He looks He looks 100%. He really does look 100%. And it was good seeing him out there. He looks good.
Yeah, I was all about the Beckham signing. Flowers, I think, has exceeded my expectations so far, but obviously we're just watching clips from practice. Let's see him do it in some games, but he's drawn a lot of has a lot of people impressed throughout the league, judging by league wide reports that he's the best looking receiver, the most high impact guy. He looks great, man. But we'll see once they can hit him.
Yeah.
So, and then just back to Beckham briefly. I was always of the mindset. I always trace the offensive struggles back to the 2019 loss to the Titans in the playoffs. So somebody brought that up today because everybody only wants to talk about Derrick Henry, not the fact the offense scored 12 points in that game, a home playoff game off a bye with the number one offense or the number one team in the league, number one seed. I always thought they needed another weapon to spread the defense, to open things up for Andrews. It didn't necessarily have to be a big name. It could have been Hollywood plus Bateman plus Andrews healthy together, something like that, whatever. But I do think that there's a value to having a veteran superstar persona on the field when things don't go your way, such as that Tennessee game, that you have that guy that, he can just kind of maybe give you a little bit extra confidence, a little bit extra will to get it done. So anyway, enough psychoanalysis there. I'd like to ask you about the pass rushers. I think Owe was getting a lot of praise, as well as Travis Jones or anybody else that caught your eye.
Yeah. Owe. I think that people, when it comes to the draft, and you have these freak athlete edge rushers who are super raw, I think people really need to get on the wave that these guys really don't get going till year 3. I really wish that Owe's numbers were reversed and he had 2 sacks year 1, 5.5 last year, and then this year, people would be a little bit okay. He's on the rise, but these 9.99 RAS, these guys who come in the league and don't really have a lot of moves. They're just edge setters. They can play the run, a la Rashawn Gary type. He really does look like that guy. That guy can go out there and be a force and be able to put pressure on the quarterback and eventually get some sacks. My number was 12 for him before the season, and I'm almost tempted to tick it up after watching him. He just really does look like a complete football player. And when you're watching the game, you're like, wow, we have an edge rusher. I mean, it really is impressive. But I don't want to go on too long about him. But Travis Jones, Michael Pierce. Real quick before we get Travis, Michael Pierce is a monster. I feel like if we had to pick like an underrated player on the team that's like kind of forgotten about, and it wasn't like one of the bigger names like Marcus Williams is kind of forgotten about. Michael Pierce is like this monster in the middle that just eats everybody's lunch, and like the more he consumes is like the stronger he gets. He was pushing people out of the way. He was like just smashing the Commanders' defensive line during drills. And it's like he you wouldn't think he's like, oh, he just looks like he looks like Jello, right? He's one of the strongest dudes
Oh yeah.
I think I've ever seen like play defensive line with my own eyes. He looks great, and I think that last year with the little sample we got, I think fans will be pretty pleased with what he does this year. Because he really can push the pocket.
I'm pretty optimistic about the defensive line. We walked into this offseason saying you need development from players at every level, basically, and the defensive line looks like the area where that development may have happened, which hopefully leads into your next point.
Yeah, and Travis Jones, he carried over from the Eagles preseason game, and you saw him shoot some gaps on the zone run, get some pressure, and once again he goes out there, and I think people forget that this is someone who was mocked in the late first round, early second round, as last year's draft happened, and he went out there again. We got some strong strong dudes on the interior. Um, and when you think about Mike McDonald's scheme and how he likes to have those two big nose tackles playing 2-eye on each side, Pierce and Jones. I mean, I really think that this is going to be a force to reckon with the defensive line. Obviously touching on what Engraven said, it's hard because you just forget because of the was it the tricep tear he had last year? Pierce.
Yeah, I think no. Was it tricep or abdominal? One or the other.
I thought it was something on his arm. Remember the bicep or tricep?
I'll
He tore
look. I'll
something.
look it up. I'll look it up while you finish your point.
Okay, but yeah, sometimes you do really forget about Michael Pearson. The signing that we made last offseason. He kind of got I think he was signed after or before. I can't remember. It was after or before Moses. Bicep.
Bicep.
Yes. Okay. But yeah.
Good
Anyway.
memory.
Yeah. This whole defensive line really looks jacked. Looks strong. Justin Matabuke looks good. The only player that I would say tamper your expectations is really David Ojabo. That's nothing against him, but this is really his first season. And watching the live stream yesterday, Jeff made a good point that this really is his first season to get his feet wet, and he's basically a rookie. I mean, he didn't go through a lot of practice last year. He went through 2 months of practice and then played an A game. You like what you see in terms of the third down potential, but the first and second down, I don't know how much you're going to see him out there just because of how raw he is in the run.
Yeah, we've touched on that before in the show, and he's the Justin Houston replacement, but you still don't have that JPP replacement. That's to me who Clowney is, JPP plus. But Ojabo looked a little rough in that preseason game, and I do think that everybody should temper their expectations. Anybody else you want to touch on from joint practices? Anything that notable caught your eye? Want to disseminate to those who weren't there?
I do have a few things. I think one, just as if you plan on going, make sure you get there early and get the whole experience. The players coming out from the tunnel. Make sure you go say hi, do as many those reporters there. I'm sure they love it. No one really cares about the reporters, so to say. They're just there for the players. But if you're on Twitter and Jeff Z, you talk to him a lot, go say hi to him. Go say hi to Kyle. Go say hi to whoever. Other than that, player wise,
how the safeties look.
That's so hard to tell. They were running so many most of the drills really didn't have the safeties involved. Both offenses, I think, want to do the same thing. They want to get the ball out quick and into the receiver's hands because they both have really good receivers. So there really wasn't a lot of long shots, and when there were, it always happened to be in man coverage. So there wasn't. It was like zero. It was a bunch of zero man. The only interesting note I could put in is there was this coverage by Mike McDonald that was this. They were running zero, but they buzzed two defensive linemen, two interior defensive linemen back, and basically had them guard the middle of the field. It was so funny to watch. I'm like, what was that? And of course, they didn't love a play, but it's fascinating. Mike McDonald. And I guess this will be my last point to touch on about the whole camp. I think people forget that, as time went on, the defense started ascending last year. I think the key to really unlocking this defense and maybe hiding some of its shortcomings and hiding some of the problems they have really is cover four quarters. I think that can and that also helps keep your corners clean from getting in the run game, getting banged up, getting their knees twisted, whatever.
Sure.
I really think that cover four quarters and keeping these guys kind of on the outside, and our Darius Washington, who I kind of made a point about, cover four quarters allowed Darius Williams for the Rams to kind of go hunt a little bit. I think he had 4 interceptions and 3 back-to-back years of the Rams, and they're very notorious for cover four quarters. So if we really get short and they can use Darius Washington like that, I think that's you have to find efficiency here with Marlon Humphrey out, and that can come in coverage. The type of players that are replacing him. But that would be my last thing. Is Mike McDonald really can put out the fire, so to say, with Marlon Humphrey out.
Yeah, I'll add on to that 2 quick points before we transition on to the preview. Darius Washington is a player that's impressed me at every step of the way, whether it was preseason action in previous years, regular season action in previous years. I like my physical specimens, and he doesn't have that. But he knows how to play football. He's a baller. So if he ends up being the starting slot corner, again, depending on matchup, and then at other times Hamilton comes down, and then you have Gino on the back end, or even Worley on the back end potentially. I think that'd be okay. But I still need some health at on the boundary corners and pass rush. So and this I forgot. I lost my second point. So let's just go on to the Commanders game here. What are you looking for? What are you looking to see?
How many starters did they play? Did they play Zay Flowers again? I think that's a pretty big question coming in. Are they like, no, let's just bubble wrap some of these guys and go kind of just play? I assume they're going to half again with Josh Johnson and Anthony Brown. I guess Huntley will probably not play because of the hamstring injury. So quarterback play, I think that's important. Who's going to be the third quarterback? The kind of the new emergency quarterback rule that they implemented. Think that'll be important?
I don't think they're going to carry 3. Oh, you mean no? Because they're not. I don't think they have room to carry 3.
No, but there's a new rule that you can have a third emergency quarterback on game day. That's
only if he's under. But only if you carry 3 quarterbacks under 53.
Oh, really? I thought it was.
That's my understanding. You can't promote somebody to the practice squad if you don't have room under 53. But I could be wrong. That's a new rule. I don't know the nuance to it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, potentially. To me, I think it's Huntley's job, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm sorry, I just want to circle back. You were talking about efficiencies on defense while Marlowe was out, and just to bring it all the way home, I think interior pass rush from defensive tackles is an efficiency that they might have this year that they haven't had in previous years. To me, offensive line depth is a big thing to watch in this game. How I thought Falele played well last game. Actually, I'm really encouraged by what he played last game. I thought his feet were a lot better. So can he continue that? What the heck's going on with Ben Cleveland? You have some offensive line gurus like he's playing great. Why don't they give him a shot? But he's in the doghouse, and also Salah. So that's kind of like some players that I think will get a long look at in this preseason game, and we'll be able to draw some conclusions afterwards.
Yeah, Ben Cleveland he's in his Ben Powers arc. The same thing was happening last year where Ben Powers got blown up the first game against the Titans, and then went on to play a good game that game, and just like the first play was like he got torched, and then goes on to play a good game. Everyone's like, he played a really good game outside of that one play. Why isn't he playing? And then come week 1, he's the starter at left guard. So I think maybe Cleveland is in his Ben Powers arc right now.
How many games do you think Cleveland starts at left guard this season?
Could be 0. He could be traded. Like,
what do you think? Give me what's your over under?
Over under 5.
5.
Over under 5.
I think it's lower. I don't know. I've seen too many players go down this road with Harbaugh before. And maybe if they make it to the playoffs, and then they'll make a switch like they did with McKinney last time they won the Super Bowl. But no, I don't know. Harbaugh did this with Orlando Brown. Maybe it's Dallas Sanders. It's probably Dallas Sanders, not Harbaugh. I don't know. It's weird though. I will say that you pick a guy in the 3rd round. He's a massive guy who can anchor and pass pro. He can move people in the run game. He's not the most consistent road grader, but you have a vacancy. This guy's earmarked for it, and he doesn't even really get a shot at it. That's kind of weird, when you bring in Simpson. And anyway, again, let's go back. The next thing to me is the edge setters. Jabo struggled to set the edge, and I thought Tavius Robinson also struggled to set the edge. And Tyus Bowser is hopefully back for week 1, according to John Harbaugh. And we were talking about earlier, just not that Harbaugh's doing something wrong, but just to set proper expectations, usually want to add 2 or 3 weeks to what Harbaugh, his most optimistic projection is. So how desperate is the need? Or are you just literally not going to be able to line up without having the other team just relentlessly target your Sam Backer with his running scheme?
Right. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, if they, if they think about putting Bowser on short-term IR, I mean that's going to be a pretty big issue. Now we're down to 3 instead of 4. So this kind of puts the emphasis on Clowney needing to get in here and the Ravens, making that work. It's probably also going to open up a spot for someone like Malik Ham, who's played pretty well during the preseason and practice. And Malik Ham just seems like a Sam linebacker in some way. Like he just seems that like weirdly fluid Sam linebacker. And also, Jeremiah Moon. I think that's someone else that he had a decent first game, and another Sam linebacker type. Someone that I watched pretty extensively and talked last year with Jason on one of his post draft shows about Malik Ham, the UDFA, and probably a practice squad player. But I'm interested to see what he does, because he did. If we're talking about pedigree, he did beat Evan Neal. He beat Evan Neal like a drum. So it'll be interesting to see what he does out there at the edge.
Yeah, that was my next question, and you were on the same wavelength here. Moon and Ham. If Bowser's not ready to go, you can't go into the season with 3 outside linebackers again. You can't do it. You got to give these guys a rest, even if you take a little bit of a hit. You can't run Ojabo out there for 80% of snaps. He's going to be hurting by the time you need him down the stretch. And really, to your prediction that Ojabo was going to get, a big number of sacks, it's dependent on his the complementary pass rushers around him. I think, he could definitely rack up a bunch, but if they're free to chip him because he's the only guy that they fear, or slide, it's going to be tougher for him.
Yeah.
But I think the UDFAs, Ham, Keaton Mitchell, the running back, who's been electrifying and really showing out, and I think has a leg up on Melvin Gordon. And if he doesn't, it's going to be, a problem. And is Tariq Black a UDFA, the wideout? Or is he a second year?
He was signed from some random place. He wasn't ours. He wasn't ours.
Okay. Well, he's the one other kind of like under the radar, maybe sneaky if you're trying to hit the 18 parlay on the 53-man roster projection. Maybe slide a little Tariq Black in there, depending on how he shows on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a pretty good camp so far, and Jeff was talking about it. He said he really has worked himself into that 6 wide receiver competition. So it'll be interesting to see if the Ravens, what the Ravens even carry. I think it's 6. Should be 6 wide receivers.
Yes. Could be 5. It's possible if let's say Mitchell they carry 4 running backs, and they really decide they want to throw an extra number either at the offensive line, where they would keep either Mustipher and Cleveland both, because I think those 2 are vying for number 9, but they could potentially keep 10. Or if they really, really want to throw an extra, go 26 on defense, 24 on offense, they could potentially keep 5. Maybe move on from Duvernay and have Mitchell do that, the return duties, potentially. But anyway, just roster ruminations.
Yeah. After Duvernay and Wallace got in that fight, I kind of want to keep him around a little bit. I got a little favoritism towards him now.
What about for Andrews? Somebody was saying he might get suspended for hurting that guy's for sprain. What he strained his AC joint in his shoulder.
Yeah, he's not getting suspended. That's not happening. It's football. They got in a fight and happens. I kind of forgot to add it when we were talking about training camp, but the energy from those two fights that went back to back, I think that's the loudest I've yelled in a while. Was them two? It went one fight and then the next play, the next fight, and the next play was Andrews choke slamming the guy, and I just started yelling. I was like, it felt good. But anyway, back to preseason.
They got into it. Like, I don't think I've seen a Ravens team let loose at joint practices like that under John Harbaugh. I think that's the most, fisticuffs they've gotten into. It's kind of interesting. But
yeah, carrying the personality of the coordinator. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah, I like that. Although Rex was more boisterous than McDonald, but
No.
on offense, at least on offense, yeah. You need that sometimes, man. That's the problem when they get in these like tough games, and Lamar doesn't quite have his mojo yet, and they just start, putting their heads down and act like a bunch of betas. Sometimes they need some alpha energy. I like it. A couple more storylines to me. Inside linebackers. Can they turn one of these guys into a trade chip? I think Harrison showed out last week. I think Phillips played very well last week. He's really developing into another guy where you're like, how smart of an idea was that Trenton Simpson pick again? Even Josh Ross is doing some things. It seems that McDonald's defense really showcases inside backers. So I'm wondering, can these guys stack up a couple impressive performances where maybe it makes Queen expendable? That's probably a pipe dream because it just is. But they only trade premium position players that the Costa drafted, not the value position players. But I don't know. Can they flip somebody into like a CB4 with upside that's under contract? I don't know. Something I thought that was worth mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, Philly didn't sign two vet and hidden contract linebackers. You could think about flipping one of ours for one of their 18 corners. But that's kind of how.
Hold on. The problem is I was watching the Philly preseason game earlier, and Nakobe Dean and Nolan Smith and like everybody just killed, like all their inside linebackers are killing it. Don't tell anybody, Yuri, but you can find inside linebackers. You don't need to pay them.
Well, happens. I guess to round it out would be corners. Is Kai Blue Kelly gonna play? I don't even know if he played last time, right?
In like the late third, early fourth quarter.
Yeah,
that's
played,
where he is on it. That's where he is on the pecking order, right?
Yeah. So corner, Armour Davis playing would be nice to see what he got. Stevens, Blue Kelly. Hopefully one of those guys can go out there and show you something. Maybe get a pick, just give us some a little bit of optimism.
Yeah, I'm looking to see, Worley have another decent game. I'm looking to see if Seymour has legitimately improved since Wink called him a DoorDash kind of guy. And, it's possible. Some players do improve, Are they saying he's improved because he's like their CB1 right now because they neglected the position and also hit a rash of injuries, like the double whammy? Or is he actually doing well? We'll see. Brandon Stevens, how is he at the catch point? I think the same thing applies to JD if JD does play. And then Ardarius, can he stack another good one up? So yeah, that was my 4 big bullet points. And the fifth one is, will Harbaugh keep the streak alive? And will he do nefarious things to keep the streak alive?
I think he'll attempt them. I really do. I think he's if they go down by a touchdown, he's gonna pull out all the stops.
He's gonna put Lamar. You put Lamar in there. You put a helmet on Lamar. Get it.
Yeah, he's gonna pull out that bathroom shank, and he said, "Not today." I I don't think it. I don't think. I don't think they're gonna lose. I really do. I think they're gonna lose this one. I think. I
So
think.
I was looking at it earlier because, and honestly, I kind of do feel like they're due, and I don't feel like they necessarily. Maybe their second. Maybe I'm overanalyzing, but their second stringers don't match up great with Washington's second stringers. But they're only -3, and the money line's -155, which isn't that great because the Saints are on the road against the Chargers, and their money line's -175. So I think Vegas might be they might think that the streak is going to come to an end. It kind of seems that way.
You gotta be a sick fuck that bet on preseason games. I mean, sick. But yeah, no, I think it's done.
I don't bet. I don't bet on preseason. I'm not saying I'm not a sick fuck, but I don't bet on preseason.
Amen to that. But yeah, no, I think it's done. I really do. I think, I look forward to. I don't know. Did Hal play in the first preseason game? I can't remember. Hal.
Sam Howell?
He did. Yeah, he did. He did. So
I would imagine I'm going to play him. Yeah.
Yeah. So he plays again. I think I'll be watching and overanalyzing that as much as possible. But I think Washington's gonna, that fighting. I think we forget that they're also a young, hungry team that wants to go out there and prove something.
Well, they're pissed off because apparently Andrews strained his AC. The other, what's his name? I forget his name. Parker, not Parker.
Anyway, something Thomas, maybe.
And then Deron Payne was like, talking smack. They seem like they're pissed off. It seems like teams try harder out to join practices, but anyway, should be to be expected. I don't know why, but I have a feeling something's come over me that I think this is John Harbaugh's last year as the head coach. Not that he's necessarily going to get fired, just a confluence of him. I think it's either going to be a great season or like a bad season.
Like a bad season, like what? They go 9-8?
Like mutiny in the locker room. I'm not necessarily saying a record prediction, but I don't know. It's just a little bit of a different kind of vibe. I kind of feel like I've been pretty plugged into the pulse of this team for a long time, just following them and watching them and seeing how they operate. And they had to change OCs. They just paid this quarterback a ton of money. They just brought in a receiver a star receiver on a one-year contract. There's a lot of pressure. I think, right now. So, and we'll see. But let's enjoy this preseason streak while it lasts.
Yep. Any last thoughts here, Voss?
No, that's it. Let's hopefully get out of there healthy. Some of these pass defenders step up, see some good things on the O-line, and keep that train rolling to the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably under 1.5 fights here at this game. I think the over might hit. I think this game might get a little chippy.
On including special teams plays or not?
Yeah, including special teams.
How about not including special teams?
Over a half.
Because I think 50-50, one half. Like, so there'll be one. Because I think half of special teams plays ends in fights. Just in general. Just like in the regular season with like two teams that haven't played each other in like 3 years. That just happens.
Yeah.
But in the field of play, yeah, I can see that. Who knows?
I mean, fights. Like, not like, the little pushing and shoving. I mean, like, someone's helmet's up in the air, and that's what I mean by fights.
So one helmet will be taken off another man's head in a fight.
Correct. Or someone will take off their own helmet and use it as a weapon.
Okay. Marshall Yanda did that once. Nobody talks about that. His rookie year in Jacksonville.
Beckham, kind of to your point there, Beckham spearheaded Josh Norman using his helmet, and kind of to touch a little bit on the old 5-star captains, draft as many as you can. he doesn't seem like much of a quote unquote head case. It's almost like 21, 22, 23, 24-year-olds with, just who and just earned their first $1 million check and are about to be set for life are a little immature. It's kind of what happens when you have a lot of money and you're young and you kind of
Yeah, I'm not necessarily trying to go down that rabbit hole right now. I'm trying to be more optimistic, but yeah, I think there's a questionable return on investment from drafting, from prioritizing character of draft prospects to the extent that the Ravens have over the last 11 draft or over the last 11 off seasons.
Yeah. Well, we'll save it for after the Super Bowl. We'll have ourselves a nice, hopefully John Hall retirement celebration podcast.
Everyone could put their red star on their. Maybe they'll have like a red star, build it into the Super Bowl ring after they win it. Only if they were a red star, though. The other guys don't get it.
All right. Well, we're gonna get out of here. Appreciate everyone for joining and listening. And we will see you guys next time. Peace.